Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital B. Home Minister Amit Shah recently was at a book release function, and the name of the book which he launched was Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh Through the Ages, and this was a book by the Indian Council of Historical Research. Now, what he said at this book release function has really rekindled the entire debate on Akhand Bharat. What did he say? Now, let me just read it out. Amit Shah said that India is not the country defined by borders and that its cultural expanse stretches from Gandhar, which is the modern day Afghanistan, to Odisha. He also said that Kashmir was named after the Hindu saint Sage Kashyap, and in a veiled reference, obviously, he was wanting to refer to the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and he said that Modi government is determined to reclaim what has been lost. Now, on several instances, like Devendra Fadnavis has also spoken about the fact that, all these countries like Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Pakistan, all should be merged with India because it was part of greater India once upon a time. And this exactly has been the agenda of the RSS, VHP, and several affiliate organizations. They've been speaking about the vision of Akhand Bharat. Now, in context to Kashmir, when Amit Shah says that he'll try and reclaim what has been lost, and he refers to the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, what does it really mean? We'll try and understand all of this. Joining me now is author, columnist, and someone who's been an interlocutor, former interlocutor to Kashmir, Professor Radha Kumar. Thank you so much, Radha, for joining. It's always a pleasure having you on the program, and especially on a subject like this. I'm sure you'll add a lot of dimensions to what Amit Shah recently has spoken. Now, beginning with what he has said, that India is not the country which is defined by borders, but its cultural expanse stretches from Gandhar to Odisha. And then he talks about, merging all the countries into one and making India into an Akhand Bharat. Uh, do you think there is any substance? Does it look like a serious agenda which the Modi government wants to pursue?
First of all, of course, India is a country with borders, albeit that some of the borders are contested and in some areas undefined. Um, Having said that, there is also little doubt that there have been, from the ancient period on, cultural uh, continuities and exchanges across South Asia and also in parts of East Asia. But my question is only that you claim that India is Gandhar to Orissa. The Afghans might claim that Afghanistan is Gandhar to many parts of India. This business of claiming, it cuts every which way. And so you ought to be a bit, a bit sensible about what you claim, especially given that the heritage that we're talking about is an intermingling of cultures brought by migrants from, the steppes down to Japan and China. Um, and that has made part of the richness of the cultural tapestry of this country. So instead of belittling or claiming that somehow this represents India's cultural boundaries, you can either say that Asia has this interconnectedness, exchanges of culture, of art, of literature, of foreign policy, of, in fact, even military over centuries, which ought to provide some kind of foundation for greater cooperation between the countries of Asia that exist today. That, in my mind, would be the way to look at this, instead of making claims that this belongs to you. It does not. It's shared by all of us who live in this region.
But do you think there is just a dogmatism or the government really might go on this expansionist mode, as various organizations and RSS affiliated organizations have also spoken about Akhand Bharat. Do you see this dream being realized? Because this has been part of the agenda, though publicly, many times they've said it publicly. And now Amit Shah's talking about the PoK. Do you think that there could be any element of seriousness in this?
Look, again, from what I know, which I cannot claim to be in depth, we are absolutely not in a military position to engage in an actual territorially expansionist agenda. As far as cultural expansionism is concerned, as I said, for that, it is only a recognition of shared exchanges, which have been reciprocal in almost every situation, whether between India and China in the ancient period, or Japanese Buddhism, Indian Buddhism in more recent times. And I'm only giving one example. These exchanges, Gandhari art, for example, the art of the Gandhara period, the influences stretched as far as Madhya Pradesh and beyond in terms of sculpture. So you have, anyone can claim that they have influenced us just as we can claim we have influenced them. This is a shared process of influencing, and it therefore belongs to all the people of the Asian region.
Uh, I'm talking about the goals of the BJP. They'd been talking about revoking Article 370. They'd been talking and talking and talking, and finally they did that. Now, if you look at the trajectory of Amit Shah's statements, I was reading that in an interview with ANI in March 2024, Shah had justified the Citizen Amendmentship Act, and which is why, I mean, he tried to explain that why it was not applicable to Muslims. He said that the main aim was to give refuge to the people who are part of the Akhand Bharat. So he's been time and again delineating his emphasis on Akhand Bharat. And then he went on to say that it is our responsibility to give refuge to people who were part of Akhand Bharat and who have been religiously persecuted. And now that time and again he's making this statement, do you think that the government has the wherewithal to, go on this agenda of Akhand Bharat really?
Actually, that's a very interesting point you have made. Clearly, they do not have the capacity to go on a territorial expansionism. However, as you point out, uh, part of what they consider to be Akhand Bharat is Hindus congregating in one place. And so they are offering refuge. But that is clearly not a territorial expansion in any sense of the term. Whereas when they talk about what is known as PoK, then they are talking about recapturing territory that belonged to the former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. Um, there too, I don't see at the moment any possibility of military conquest. And therefore, it seems to me that this is more a statement of claim than of acting on, of being in a position to act on the ground.
You would call
Uh,
it a statement of claim, or you would call it just a dog whistle also by the government?
well, at the present, so certainly when it is used politically to whip up sentiment, then it is a dog whistle. And it has happened increasingly frequently over the past 10 or 11 years is also factually well established. However, at this present time, we also see a build-up of a war of words. Whether it is the accusations of Indian agency instigated assassinations in Pakistan, which is the latest set of claims that is being discussed internationally,
Yeah, you're talking about the
following
Washington.
on from the US.
Yeah,
Sorry?
yeah. No, I said you were referring to the recent reports in Washington Post.
And there were reports, of course, prior to that when the first accusations were made about Panoon in the US. Uh, at that point, too, the Pakistani government had made these claims of Indian instigated assassination. So you have that whole group of claims on the one side happening. You have Mr. Shah's, as I say, seemingly contradictory discussion of India's uh, very wide-ranging, unspecified geocultural borders. But you also have, as you have pointed out, actions such as the CAA, which specifically offers refuge to Hindu and some other subcontinental minorities, uh, but not to Muslims who are persecuted in the neighborhood. So the bias is fairly evident. It seems too that within their range of uh, tools, those tools which are possible to be used, they are using. So immigration is something that is very much within the power of the executive policies on immigration. And executing those policies is also something that we have done over the decades in different ways. Um, the idea, let me put two or three other points over here. First of all, I see this present war of words over Jammu and Kashmir between Pakistan and India now with the statement about the UN resolutions and January 5 as Kashmiri Self Determination Day and so on from Pakistan. Obviously, there will be a ratcheting up of rhetoric on the Indian side as well. But that is detracting from a far more important issue, which is the restoration of statehood to Jammu and Kashmir, as promised before the Supreme Court now more than a year ago. And that is something that the elected administration of Jammu and Kashmir has been raising with the union administration and especially with the Home Minister. But no statements have been made regarding that. I would only say that uh, we should not allow this war of words to detract from that very important action on the ground that is required.
But when you speak in context with Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and time and again, this entire pitch about Pakistan occupied Kashmir has come in, do you think that the government would be in a condition to pursue at least? I'm not talking about expanding their boundaries or merging other countries. I don't know. You yourself said that they do not have the military capacity. But when it comes to PoK, how seriously would be this agenda, and what is the possibility that the government can seriously pursue this, and if at all they pursue, what could be the impact on Jammu and Kashmir?
There is already a growing impatience in Jammu and Kashmir over the restoration of statehood. Even in Jammu, you have seen that there are protests against the lieutenant governor's economic policies, this ropeway in Katra and so on, locals fearing that their sources of employment are being given to companies from outside the former state. So uh, I would say that when you start, when already there is dissatisfaction, but this dissatisfaction is important in the sense that a positive outcome can very easily come. You can restore statehood. You can start to let people speak to their, give the elected government power to act on what groups or stakeholders in the state are asking for. Uh, Now, if instead of that you don't respond to that, then what you are doing is stoking that dissatisfaction while at the same time allowing it to have an additional sense of insecurity that, as the war of words between India and Pakistan intensifies, so
No, but
will cross border militancy.
would you call it an additional sense of insecurity, or would you see this as a diversionary tactics as well? Because the government very well knows that there are protests over statehood. People are not happy with the economic policies of the LG. So maybe to divert the attention, they are whipping up a new sentiment, maybe an emotional quotient they are trying to manufacture by which the attention gets diverted. So do you see this as a diversionary tactics as well?
Whether it is a deliberate tactics or not, I cannot say. I simply, that is not an accusation I would make on suspicion alone. However, there is no doubt that it acts in a diversionary capacity. So, intentional or not, that's the fact. Now, the second point, though, is that when we all know, or we have seen often enough, that when a war of words between India and Pakistan ratchets up, so does cross border militancy. Acts of violence, acts of terrorism also increase. So, that is going to be certainly a fear of people on the ground. And it should be a fear. It should be something that we take into account before we make statements. There is no reason to play into the hands of militants or terrorists.
Right. So, I'm interviewing you on a day where, Pakistan is marking 5th of January as the Self-Determination Day. And obviously, it will try and push an anti-India agenda, not only like towards India, but globally as well. And, of course, supported by a lot of campaigns on the social media. That's what they've been doing. So this self-determination, is this India's answer to self-determination of Pakistan? That India knew that this was coming, and that is why Amit Shah made a statement like that to counter this self-determination, this entire rhetoric around the self-determination day of Pakistan.
I think that actually, when Mr. Shah first made those comments uh, at that book launch, he was it was actually stressing how important the union's role has been in Jammu and Kashmir. So, in that sense, I mean, if I were to read it, it's a way of more or less, it implies that statehood is not on the front burner. That is
Right.
how I read that statement. That this could have been an occasion if he was going to make political points about the current situation, then statehood should have been the point he made. Not that we have done this and we have done that, and Article 370's uh, uh, revocation or hollowing out has led to the end of terrorism and the end of dissidents and the end of this and that in Jammu
Right.
and Kashmir. Now, why do you feel it constantly necessary to state this? We know that that was the justification for not having elections for all these years. Now, is that the justification for not giving statehood? That is how I read it.
Right. No, but as far as rather Pakistan's Kashmir agenda is concerned, do you think that Pakistan's Kashmir agenda in any way meets BJP's Akhand Bharat vision, which about which they've been speaking time to time? So is it like something tit for tat that Pakistan talks about the Kashmir agenda, then India starts talking about the Akhand Bharat, and this is how they give it back on across the spaces they have captured, whether
Yeah,
it's
I
social
mean,
media and yeah.
there's no doubt that the such speeches made by the leadership of either country only plays into exacerbating hyper-nationalist sentiments in the other country. So, in that sense, yes, both of them are playing the same game. Does it benefit them? Clearly, it appears to benefit the BJP in India. It does not appear to benefit anyone other than the armed interest. I won't even say the Pakistani army, but it certainly doesn't benefit any Pakistani political party because nobody any longer in Pakistan really believes in that rhetoric, as far as I can see. So, so why they do it? It's as much an ideological adherence as it is in this country. Let
Right.
me put it this way, even if it did not benefit the BJP, they would still be saying these things. They were
Right.
saying them before, they will say them now. And of course, we should not think that they will not take whatever actions are within their capacity to achieve these goals. At present, as I say, some of these goals is simply not in their capacity to achieve. Now, on the others, the question is, will Indian opposition unite with Indian civil society to make
Hmm.
it clear that some of the cultural goals too are, need to be far more inclusive and far more based on what people on the ground want and say than your ideology that you are seeking to impose. That seems to me to be something that is deeply required and is not happening very sadly
Right.
today.
But rather, what about Pakistan's Kashmir agenda? Where is it currently now that elections have happened? Article 370 has already been revoked years back by the BJP. Do you think that Pakistan's Kashmir propaganda or Kashmir agenda has taken a backseat, or they are trying to foment trouble still, in discrete ways?
Until you have a results oriented peace process back in place, there are always going to be interests in Pakistan that will direct their attention towards keeping Kashmir in a state of volatility, turmoil, instability, and so on. The Indian effort, certainly up until recently, has always been to counter that by creating as much stability as possible on the ground in Kashmir. And that situation does not seem to be the same today as it
But
was.
in your view, Radha, do you think that after the revocation of Article 370, there's stability in Kashmir? Because many opposition parties have been saying that the actual political process still has not begun. Now that Omar Abdullah is the chief minister, how do you view the situation in Kashmir?
I think the union administration is losing valuable time. The elections in Jammu and Kashmir and the election result offered a huge opportunity to start making peace, at least to some extent. Had they followed up, if, even now, if they follow up, by restoring statehood, full statehood, not stage by stage as the Solicitor General said in court in December, but full statehood. If they do that now, then they give some space for peacemaking to happen, which would have to be led by the chief minister, with support from the Home Ministry and the Union administration. Uh, this would be something that would really help in the current situation. Neglecting it only is adding to the possibility of more instability erupting in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
You see the same, by the way, for Ladakh also. You see that there is a huge problem. Still, they have not addressed the Ladakhi demands for the sixth schedule and for greater autonomy.
Right. So you're saying that the actual peace process has not begun. Full statehood needs to be restored. And amidst all these uncertainties, if Amit Shah is making statements about Akhand Bharat, he talks about the fact that India is not a country which is defined by borders. This kind of a statement coming from Home Minister, how does it impact the land of Jammu and Kashmir really, according to you?
I mean, I would imagine that there must be a lot more cynicism on the ground. You've already seen the kind of escalating pressure on the chief minister,
Right.
first from the opposition parties, even right from day one of the legislative assembly meeting, on what kind of resolution should be passed, on why Article 370 is not mentioned, and so on. So you have that pressure on one side. You see even from within his own party now, people like Agha Ruhullah um protesting on the reservation issue, not so much on but statehood. There is a growing sense that the union administration does not want to give statehood in any hurry, and that the chief minister might be buckling under, and that is no good at all. I mean, this is, after so many years you finally have an elected administration, you need to help shore up the credibility of that administration by allowing them the powers that they should have as elected representatives. Instead, you are making a mockery of the process.
So you're saying very clearly that when Amit Shah speaks about the cultural borders, and he talks about the fact uh, that India is that we need to pursue the undivided India project, or the Akhand Bharat project, it breeds cynicism in Kashmir. That's exactly what you've said. So I'll have to end the program here. Thank you so much, Radha, for joining on the Federal. It is always wonderful to have you on the program. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this interview: subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal.